Shreveport, Louisiana as well, where he spent nearly a year in that, or he has spent nearly a year in that role. In that capacity, Matt oversees all day-to-day newsroom activities, including editorial discussions, newscast producers, digital media, investigations. In all, Matt has spent a decade with Raycon Media. So we welcome Matt. Finally, Danny Merrill is all the way on the right. Danny Merrill has been doing radio since 1979. He started his career in Lockhart, Texas. Then from 1982 to 1987, worked at KASE 101 and KBET in Austin. And from 1987 to 1989, worked in at KORA and KAGG in Bryan College Station. In 1990, he started working at Kix 105 and became program director, brand manager, music director in 1995. Wears lots of hats.
To cover the hair, too.
Good to know, yeah. And host of the Merrill in the Morning show since 1996. If you've heard Danny Merrill before beyond the radio, his voice will probably sound familiar because he also has been the public address announcer at SFA basketball since the mid-90s and SFA football since 2000. Yeah, we like that deep voice around here. He's also done various play-by-play for high school teams over the years and fill-in at Texas A&M Aggie basketball and SFA football. I know we've got lots of sports interested, sportsy sort of people in the audience today, so we may have some questions about that a little bit later on and how to get plugged in there. So, all of our panelists, let's give one more round of applause before we get started. So first off, guys, thank you all for being here. Let's just begin with John and move our way down. If you would each explain your day-to-day activities. John, you are the news director for KTAL NBC6. Tell us your day-to-day activities in your position.
It varies. I mean, it's there's no playbook to being a news director. I'll tell you that right off the top. You deal with the editorial, what stories we're going to cover today, what stories we're not going to cover today. You deal with the personnel, your staff. You're dealing with a newsroom of 40 people, so that's 40 different personalities you're dealing with. You can't deal with person A the same way you deal with person C. So it'll bite you in the butt. You have to deal with your general manager, who's my boss. You have to deal with other department heads. And now it's become more corporate. In the last 10 years, I have my corporate VPs that I deal with on a daily basis. There are often times that I don't even know what stories we're covering that day because I'm on conference calls and emails and other things that are happening. And I'll look up at 5 o'clock and I'll ask the question, what are we leaving with today? And it's some random story. And that's not every day, but sometimes that happens. Right now, it's a quote-unquote busy time for us. We just had Super Bowl, we have Olympics, we have all kind of Mardi Gras little things we're doing. We did a political forum last week, so it's a busy time. So then I had a producer quit on me night before last, so now I'm in the process of trying to fill that position. So, and we just started sweep, so it can be stressful sometimes, but I will tell you this, I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it. I didn't go into college thinking I was going to be a news director in 20 years. It was my plan to go to law school, and I was accepted to go to law school, but I just walking around campus with a camera and interviewing people, interviewing professors, I just started getting into it. And I love producing. I still consider myself a producer. And I just fell in love with the producing side of it and putting together stories and putting together newscasts. And I love the opportunity to help people. I had so many people help me when I was younger, when I couldn't work my way out of a wet paper bag. And could have easily decided to get out of it, but I had people that believed in me and told me to push forward and push through it, and it paid off. Matt worked at WFB. I worked there a long time ago. One of the people, I don't know if Vicki Zimmerman was there when he was there, but she was one of my big mentors and still is today. We talk often about stuff, so, and I love the opportunity to help young people and give opportunities to young folks. Because like I said, I wouldn't be here if somebody didn't give me that opportunity, so I always try to pay that forward. And so, and that's a long-winded answer, but it's that role as a news director is probably the most undefined, defined role in the newsroom. I have the biggest department, I have the biggest budget, I have the biggest everything, so we're the only department that really deals with every other department in the building because it put the newscast on the air and stuff like that. So, but it's paid off. I would tell you, be ready to I don't know if I should say because I don't want to break anybody's heart, but be prepared to ask mom and dad for some cash when you first start off. That's just really the real about it. And I did that for the first couple of years, and eventually it'll get there for you. But like I said, I enjoy it. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for anything. I love it. I get excited about severe weather. I get excited about politics. I get excited about things you probably shouldn't get excited about.
So you get excited about the severe weather, big weather comes to
Yeah,
Louisiana.
yeah. And my wife tells me, we had the snowstorm, the inch to It's not how much falls, it's where it falls, and we had under 2 inches, so it might have been a snowpocalypse. But it's, she's like, you get excited for that stuff. You always have, you always will, and I do. So I enjoy it. Like I said, I enjoy probably most all the people I've met over the years and the friends I've met. So, and believe me, when you're in the trenches with people working 12, 14-hour days, you have to like the person you're sitting next to or working with. Because if you don't, you're like, life's too short to be unhappy. So I'm definitely not unhappy, and I enjoy it.
I'd like to switch gears to Matt. Day-to-day responsibilities, what's your day look like?
Sure. It's similar in a lot of ways to John's as a news director, but he has more of a role that kind of oversees the 10,000 feet view. For me, it's like every day is a new day for me. I wake up and news changes, and what an exciting time to be in the news, from politics, no matter where you stand on what aisle, to where we are with the digital age and Facebook. Facebook is our frenemy, that we like to say. We need them, but we don't make any money off of them. But for me, my day-to-day is, it really doesn't stop. Since I oversee the editorial process, oversee our morning newscasts, our afternoon and evening newscasts, our investigative team, our young reporters, our MMJs. So I'm always working. I always am attached to my phone, despite my wife. She hates that, but it's always a text message here or email there. And from deciding what stories we lead with in our 4, 5, 6, our morning shows, helping our young journalists discover and grow their roles and discover new ways to tell their stories. We also work with the investigative team, and we're developing and always sending a public records request. Don't ever stop asking why. If you go through your day and you don't ask why or what, then you're really not much of a journalist. So my daily role really is about 24 hours a day. I get about 6 hours of sleep, if that, and just kind of putting out little fires here and there. I put out little fires, much like the game Whack-A-Mole. I'm not sure how many people know the game Whack-A-Mole is, but it's fun. It keeps me on my toes. I like doing it. And if you don't like doing this, then that defeats the purpose, like John said. I mean, you got to be happy. I love doing what I do. It doesn't pay off in the beginning, but it does pay off eventually. Through hard work and determination and just grinding it out every day. That's pretty much it. It's just something new every day. You have to wake up every morning to expect the unexpected. When you think you have your lead story planned, it's going to change. So just be ready for that.
Okay. Moving on to Danny. Same question. Daily roles and responsibilities. Take us through a day in your life.
And I think you're hearing a trend here because when you get into media, whether it be radio or TV, especially in management positions, you're never ever going to get done totally what you want to get done that day. There are going to be some things on the list that you're just going to have to wait until the next day, wait until the next week, because things just keep on popping up and there's just not enough hours in the day. Specifically for me, I'm there at the station about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and usually get to leave about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. It's a long day. I have the morning show, and so I got to get prepared for that. You know, the bosses tell me I'm supposed to do a whole lot of show prep and go down to different entertainment tabloids, TMZ, and look over here for, for country music, so I'll look at things like that, but I never get the show prep that I want to, so a lot of it is off the cuff, and it probably sounds like that too. I'm also involved a lot with, after we get through with our morning show, I'm involved in promotions, seeing what giveaways we have coming up, whether it's something small like tickets to a local event, or something larger, maybe a flyaway to an event somewhere. And I have to, manage exactly how we're going to give these away. You can't give these prizes away in the same way during the same time because it just kind of gets confusing to the listener. You say, all right, everybody go online and do this, and it just kind of gets all bundled up. I'm involved in scheduling music daily. Take a look at the songs that we should be adding. I don't necessarily pay attention to the charts. I mean, you always hear about the top 40 charts. That is a radio-driven type of thing. What we do is we take a listen to testing and research and find out what phone calls we're getting from the area, what's playing well at some of the clubs. We take a look at some of the online places where people are downloading their music and saying what's number one there, what's number one regionally on those sites. And so that's what we kind of play off as far as scheduling music. I edit the logs on a daily basis. In other words, the commercial logs. They insert the commercials, and you may not realize this, but sometimes when we play commercials, a commercial break, whether it be 5 or 6 commercials, we'll take a look at those commercials and we'll categorize them. And we'll have the ones that sound best first in the commercial break, and we'll have the ones that sound, we categorize them as over obnoxious, last in the commercial break. The thinking is that if we play a really cool commercial, like a Bud Light commercial or something like that, that's got some real kind of value to it as far as entertainment value, people will go like, oh, I'm not going to turn the station just yet. We'll just go ahead and wait. And then they realize they're kind of halfway through the commercial. Then when that obnoxious commercial comes on, maybe they'll go ahead and stick with us the entire thing. If you play obnoxious commercial number 1, they're probably going to scatter. Then, of course, there are those that are going to push the button anyway when you play commercials. Appearances, do those website posts. We're responsible for doing those. Of course, interaction with social media. And basically, number 1 is, at least in my mind, is we are owned by Town Square Media, which is based out of Connecticut, and they own 300 radio stations. And my number 1 goal is to make sure we're doing everything we're supposed to, so we don't get a call from them. And that's basically about it.
Okay, thank you guys. Switching gears for just a bit, and I'm going to open this to the entire panel. The media as a whole is intrinsically connected with the community in which it exists. Talk for a bit, and anyone can take the lead on this. Talk for a bit about how you, your station, your reporters, your DJs, how do they interact with, how important is interaction with the community in which you operate? What responsibilities do you feel like your station or the media as a whole has to the community in which your station operates?
I'll start off. I think it's very important. As a local TV station, local news is one of these, local broadcast is one of the industries that has withstand the test of time. It's not going to go away. It's still very relevant. But how do we stay relevant? And that's knowing what our community wants. One of the ways that we figure out what our community wants, what our viewers want to see, is it is through Facebook interactions. It's having our anchors actually go into the Facebook Live post and comment and answer your questions. It's getting out on the streets when we're at a story, talking to the people, really talking to folks. We launched a new project, and that is called kind of our. It's what we're trying to do is really hit down and drill down and ask people what they want to see in local media. What do you want to see? When was the last time did you watch local news? Many of you probably don't even watch local news. You probably get it on your time, on your demand, whether it's social media or an app or with push alert or word of mouth. So we're trying to figure that out. And I'm not sure there's a right answer with that just yet. But, I'm kind of getting around too, but it's kind of circling around. But, to answer your question, it really is important to know, if we're broadcasting stories that our community doesn't like, then we're not doing our jobs. There is some vegetable stories that we have to throw out there, but we really need to hear you guys. We need to hear what you want to see and know what's happening in the community. And that's just by actually getting out there and talking to people, figuring out what's going on.
Danny, John?
Kind of alluding to what John mentioned earlier with the severe weather. First and foremost, if you go back, I don't know the specific law or the specific writing, but I know with the FCC, when it comes to media and I know radio, that the number one directive is public service. You're supposed to be there to be of service to the public. And, you never want to have a Hurricane Ike or Hurricane Rita, which came through, I guess, maybe 8, 10 years ago now. You never want to have a Hurricane Harvey come through and drop all kinds of rain. But at the same time, it's a good feeling knowing that in media that you impact the lives of so many so directly. Whether it be talking, with the Texas Department of Transportation, talking about contraflow traffic, where you should go, where you should not go. Or in some cases such as a major storm or tornado outbreak, of which there are many in this area, certainly in Shreveport. That's when you have the instances of power outages. And people, go to their phones, whether it be to keep up with radio and TV, to keep posted on exactly what they should and should not be doing, exactly where that tornado is located. And once again, you don't want to have that happen in your community, but it's nice to know as a public service that you have these folks that are there, braving the storms at the radio stations, and you have engineers behind the scenes making sure those stations stay on the air, that you're able to tell them exactly what to do to even save lives in many instances.
I'll just piggyback off of Matt and Dan said. I was just thinking, what was it, last couple of Sundays ago, we had wasn't supposed to be severe weather, but it ended up kind of becoming severe. We had tornadoes that hit up in East Texas, Texarkana area, destroyed a church, leveled it. All the stations in town are doing their cut-ins and doing their tornado warning, which they should be doing. I just happened to click on the Weather Channel, and they're running something. So when you see that, you're not going to get, you're only going to get that from a local television station. You're not going to, now if it was Monday through Friday between a certain time period, I'm sure they'll be doing it, but late at Sunday night, they're not staffed for that unless it's a major city. They're not caring about East Texas, Northeast Texas, with 25,000 people. I can say it like that, but that's just the truth. Whether or not it's a tornado, and this wasn't just like Logan, these were EF 1s and 2s. Nobody was injured, which is good, but look, I wouldn't want to go through a tornado and have your life torn apart by that. And they're not on TV for that, but they always say that they're there for that and all that stuff. But we have to be good community partners, whether it's with our local universities, our local government entities. But I always tell people to caution that it's one thing to have a good open line of communication, but we're not there to carry their bag. We're not there to be their PR. Look, if you're doing something that you don't have any business doing, we're going to report it. If you're doing something that you don't have any business doing, and you don't want to tell us, we're going to put out a Freedom of Information Act request to get that information. Now, you're going to fight it, we're going to fight it, the lawyer's going to get involved, you're going to charge us $100 for all these copies, but at the end of the day, we're still going to get it. And one of the things, going back to my role as news director, what I have to do on a quarterly basis, and Danny talked about the FCC, I have to do something called programs and issues quarterly. And we send that up to the FCC to show these are the stories, the stories we've done in certain categories, be it weather, be it politics, be it crime, be it education, be it health. So I lock myself in my office for a couple of days, and I have to do it because it's a 20-page document. And I have the opportunity, or the blessing, wherever one is saying, I have to do it for two different television stations because we we provide our newscast for Fox affiliate in Shreveport as well. So I have to do it for 2 different stations, so, which believe me is not fun. Do a lot of paperwork as a news director, let me tell you that, but, but we give that to the FCC, and I've never known a person to do it, but a regular person coming out of television say, hey, I want to see your FCC file, and we can't tell them no. We have to, now we can tell them, give us a minute and we find it, but we'll pull it out, give it to him or her, and they can take as much time as they want and go through it. I've never known a person to do that, but they can do that. By law, they can do that. By law, we have to allow them that opportunity to do that. So, but that's what we have to do. So, I mean, we have to be good community partners. Look, we live there. I live in Bossier. I'm not sure where Matt lives, but, you know, but the reason why I live in Bossier and not Shreveport is because we moved, is because the school district was better in Bossier. You know, I had 2 kids in elementary school, middle school now, and I wanted them to make sure they're going to the same type of school they were in before we left, so that plays a role. You know, if I was single by myself, I would have been in a 1-bedroom apartment down the street from the station, but I'm not, I'm married, but you live in the same community, so I live there, I eat there, I work there, I play there, so I want to make sure we're telling the same stories and being good community partners as well.
I may be poking the bear a little bit, but I've got to ask on this, circling back around, when you're talking about submitting Freedom of Information Acts and holding, say, local government accountable. Do you have any examples of this? Any stories that come to mind where maybe there were contentious issues that you had to deal with? I'm curious also about Matt with his investigative background.
Absolutely. You know, it's not uncommon, unfortunately, and I don't mind sharing this with everybody. It's not uncommon to have an officer-involved shooting every day, you know, somewhere in the country, right? We've had a lot in, definitely in Dallas, and then in Baton Rouge, and you know, some in Shreveport too, and it happens. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but part of our role is to be a watchdog too, watchdog journalist, and every time that happens, I tell you what, I have a public records request that I have ready to go. I just need to fill in the blank, which is a date and a time and a location, and I send it straight to Shreveport Police Department, fire right off to the city attorney. And what we're looking for is if that officer has had any prior history of any use of violence. If that officer, we're looking for his toxicology report. We're looking for, you know, whatever we can find out in order to you know, and to let our public know if something is run amiss. You know, so that's one of the things that we ask for, and we always get pushback. You know, we always get pushback from the city attorney saying we need more time, or it's going to cost us this much for that, and then we do have to get lawyers involved, and then we do have to send them a nasty letter from the attorneys, but we do get what we want. And in doing that, you uncover facts that many times government organizations don't want you to see. And you know, so like I said, always ask questions, always ask why. You know, 99% of the time you're not going to find anything, but it's that 1% that you do. When you ask for receipts from a lawmaker who travels to Washington, D.C. for a parade or whatever, get those itemized receipts. You never know what you're going to find. Keep asking the questions, keep digging, you'll find something. And then when you do, that reinforces your commitment to your community that you're going to hold, you know, the powers that be accountable. And that's what's fun about it.
John?
We've pretty much the same issue. You always get pushback. We've submitted some Freedom of Information Act requests. You get the same pushback from everybody. Usually you get, why do you want it? What do you need it for? And I always have to walk a fine line for our television station, because we do a weekly segment called Salute the Badge, and we try to profile an officer or a firefighter or a paramedic that doing good things in the community, stuff like that. So it's that, yeah, we'll do these stories profiling Officer Matt doing this great thing, but then that same night I might be doing a story about Officer Danny who got caught doing something he didn't have any business doing. So it's
you want to give props where they're due, but hold accountable.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're an officer, you're running a Boy Scout den and trying to help these young men or young women be better, we want to profile that. But look, if you were drunk when you were involved in the shooting, I mean, I'm gonna put it on television. And I don't hold any, even a few weeks ago, I had to fire off an email to the mayor of Shreveport. And it was it was respectful, but I got my message across, and we got what we didn't get before because of that. And not because I wanted to do it, just because of, I felt like writing the mayor, but it was like, look, this is starting to get out of hand, and I need to put a stop to it. And sometimes you have to do that, and when you have to do it, you just have to do it.
Danny, I want to give you an opportunity, since you're kind of in a different area here. How do you deal with these potentially contentious issues?
We have 5 radio stations in our building and a staff of 4 air personalities that watch over these stations. So we really lack the manpower to do a whole lot of in-depth types of reporting. Now, of course, we are all supposed to do our web stories and post those on our social media as well. But we don't necessarily get the opportunity to dig down deep. What we do is, is that we do get updates from the local police and local sheriffs, and many times we'll follow up on specific those stories that we're like, this looks like a hold my beer and watch this story. And we will follow up on that and say, hey, there's some more details. We just had one yesterday, somebody, 26-year-old man, was out in the pasture, mudding, and this, with his pickup truck, and for some reason was also shooting at targets as he was doing so with his revolver, and he got his truck stuck. And in the process, put his revolver down in his lap, caught. And still were trying to get out, trying to get it in gear, at which point he hit his gun and bam, shot a hole in his thigh. And he was able to go walk, I guess limp, to another truck and drove himself to the hospital. He's going to be fine, but those are the ones, those are the kind of the stories that we're looking for. We're not quite as in-depth and serious about some of our stories, so we kind of get on the lighter side as far as that's concerned.
But to be honest, that'll be the story that gets the most hits on the website.
Sure.
I remember working on radio myself, and Kenny, it was a story about ducks crossing a highway that got a massive amount of clicks. You never
Cats
know.
and babies on YouTube, that's what
All right, let's switch gear for just a second. Getting into the perhaps business side of media for just a bit. Let's start with just talking about how you differentiate your station's product from others in the market.
Everybody has their little catchphrases, whatever it is. I heard 100 of them, like we're local news that matters. Everybody has something on your side, in it for you, fighting, looking out, whatever. Sometimes it's going to be, you look at a newscast on any given day, if the mayor's having a press conference or the governor's in town, everybody's going to cover that. It's going to be that one or two stories that the other person isn't covering. And this is when you kind of have that meeting in the morning. I'm sure Matt does it too. Those enterprise stories that, yeah, we're going to cover the governor coming to town, but is it a package? We're going to cover the mayor having a news conference. Is it a package? We're going to cover Krista's health, cut the ribbon on something. Okay, what is it, a package? What story ideas are you bringing to the table that morning that's going to be different from what he's going to have at 5 o'clock that we can have at 5 o'clock?
So you watch your competition.
I mean,
Yeah, you have to.
you have to, I'm in my office, I have 4 televisions on, well, 5. I have 4 on the wall, 3 on the wall, and 1 small, 1 on my desk, so I have 4. And you have everybody on. Now at home it's different because I don't have 4 TVs in my bedroom. I think my wife would kill me.
Be the best bedroom.
Yeah, probably. Watch the Pelicans, the Rangers. And Pelicans, they disappoint me every night. But anyway, you watch and look. If I see something on his channel, see something on somebody else's channel, I'll just mosey on around to the side desk. You're like, did you just see that? And then I'm like, we're calling now. Sometimes you're at 5 o'clock, there's no one to call. And I'm like, the hell, man? I mean, you get that. You get sometimes, some days you're like, we got everything, and you'll do a story, then you'll see a story on somebody else a couple of days later. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but you have to pay attention to what other people are doing.
Yeah, I'll dovetail off that, and you do watch the competition. So what the question is, what sets us apart?
Yeah, well,
so what
how
sets us
do you
apart?
as a station
Gotcha.
differentiate your product from others?
like John said, everybody's got their catchphrase or slogan. But what we try to do to set ourselves apart is to be original, make a promise to our viewers and keep that promise. Whether it's staying safe during severe weather, we promise that we're going to track that tornado or storm from beginning to the end, and we're going to do that regardless of LSU football games or whatever, despite what some people may call and complain about. But that's our promise to the viewers. We're also going to stand out by doing original reporting. If there's a fire, there's a major fire at a house, everybody's going to cover that, but you got to find that story. You got to find that human interest element. Maybe the Bible survived, or maybe 3 cats made out and had to do CPR on a kitten. But you got to find that original reporting that's going to separate you from your competition in town. And not only doing that, you also have to work with your marketing folks to kind of bolster your side up from that. So setting ourselves apart is making a promise to your viewers, regardless of what station you're at, delivering on that promise, and then reminding the viewers that you did deliver on that promise. And then you can take that from the sales side and say, hey, this is a TV station that has, besides just the numbers game, that we also separate ourselves from this in the market. This is what you want to get on. This is what you want to buy.
Danny?
Kind of touched on something earlier because radio stations, I'm going to specifically say country radio, which I'm part of. You have access to all the same music. You can look at all the same charts. And as I mentioned earlier, we try to stay away from the charts. Granted, we use that as part of our research model, but more importantly, we look at the different call-outs to make sure that our music is spot on for what we're supposed to be doing regionally. I don't know if we have any country fans, Red Dirt fans. We just had a big sellout. Cody Johnson's playing at the Expo Center this past Saturday night. Now, our corporate folks in Connecticut don't know who the heck Cody Johnson is. And he's not part of the mandated music that we're supposed to play. But we don't necessarily go by that because we realize that if you're selling out something with 5,500 people, you need to play that person on your radio station. So we try to really specify regionally our music. Something else is that whenever we crack the microphone open, we want to make sure that something compelling is going on. Long gone are the days, supposedly, when you're supposed to be, you crack the mic, Kicks 105, that was so-and-so, this is so-and-so, that's it. That's fluff, that's nothing that's compelling for the listener. You got to be entertaining. So we make sure whether you're actually doing a longer break talking about a promotion or you're ramping up music between 2 songs, that something is going on. We specify these 4 areas about doing a break. Number 1, how specifically are you going to open that break? And this is something I could use for speeches or whatever talk that you're giving. Number 1, how are you going to open that break? Specifically, what words are you going to use? In our case, Kicks 105, the country leader, that was George Strait. Secondly, what's the content of that break going to be? What one thought are you going to deliver on the content of that one break? It could be something kind of drawn out about a promotion that you're giving away something. If you're talking between songs, that content could be nothing more than, God, I hate Tom Brady. And thirdly, how are you going to deliver that content? Is it going to be something that's going to be whimsical? Is it going to be matter of fact? Is it going to be straightforward? Is there a bit of tie to it so that you're kind of being a little bit more funny with it? And number 4, and the one that's kind of forgotten many, many times, is how exactly are you going to close that break? So many times I'll hear people and do air checks with folks that they had a great content, great delivery of a story, but then it doesn't finish so strong because they kind of ramble on out. So have a specific way that you're going to close that break, whether it be, hey, listen for more details on Kicks 105 or, Forrest Gump it if you want to. That's all I got to say about that. Whatever the case may be, make sure that you have a way that you're going to get out of it so that you have all 4 of those within that break and make it compelling, and that kind of sets you apart from a lot of the other radio stations that haven't bought into that yet.
Excellent. You've all talked a little bit about where you came from, how you started in this. I want to talk about the biggest surprises that you kind of dealt with when you first started in media, but I'd actually like to start. I'd like to start with John and circle back around and ask what changed your mind specifically when you were in college and switched from being a law to media-oriented student.
Look,
What was it that made the big change?
yeah, look, my brother's a lawyer, so I just wanted to be my brother coming out of high school, going to college, and all due respect, I took journalism because it was easy. It's like, I don't have to, I have friends in psychology and sociology and biology and math and pre-cal and engineering. I'm like, man, I just need something that I can get some B's and like I said,
Don't say this. Come on.
yeah, I'm just being honest. But it was by my sophomore year. I had professors talk to me and say, look, you really have some, you have an understanding of it. So we're producing it in college and in class. I don't know how many. At the time, we only did one newscast a week. I think they do one a day now, but this is in the mid-90s. We only did one newscast a week. And everybody had to change their roles. Like 1 week you're producing, next week you're anchoring, next week you're doing whatever. But I was able to get professors to let me produce the whole year. So I just produced and I just enjoyed it. I just liked it. I would go around campus with the cameras, and it certainly wasn't that little bitty camera right there, I can tell you that.
Oh, we've got some bigger ones back.
It was one guy thought I was walking around, I actually had a police officer stop me, he thought I was walking around with a rifle in the tripod bag, so huge, and I was like, what? And I had to open it and show him, he was like, what is that? I'm like, not a rifle, I can tell you that. It was just fun, you know, I was able to go up to people on campus, hey, you want to talk to me, interview with the professors, I even got an opportunity to sit down with the chancellor. More than once. It was just fun. I enjoyed it. It became fun. I would hustle back, try to edit the stuff, and help other people edit and put together. I just got excited about it, and it just became fun. I started interning. I interned at WAFB. I just enjoyed it, and it just became. It was cool. It was different. Everybody beating their head over the head trying to pass their biology test and this test and this equation, and I'm putting together, a half-hour newscast that's going to run on a local PBS station, and it was just cool, and by the time I got to my senior year, it was no brainer that this is what I was going to do, at least to start my career.
And once you started working in the field, what were some of the things that maybe were surprising or you couldn't have prepared for? What shocked you?
Now this is different again. I graduated in '98. My first salary was $18,000. But now I'm coming from college where I didn't make any money. So I was excited about that. But not so much the salary, because like I said, that came over time. But it really was the people. My first anchor, and God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago, was a guy by the name of John Hamburg. And here I am, a 22-year-old kid from South Louisiana. And like I told you earlier, I couldn't produce my way out of a paper bag to save my life. This guy had been everywhere. He was on the end of his career. He already knew this was going to be his last stop.
So even though you did it in college, once you got
it was different. It was totally different. I mean, it's every day, it's live. It was a different type of environment. He never said a crossword to me, never said anything demeaning to me. It was always helpful. He would take me out after the show. Dude could drink like a fish. He put one, and I still don't drink. I'm sucking on a beer all night. He even went through like 100 of them. He would take me over, excuse me, to his house on the weekends and have dinner. I mean, it was just that find you somebody that's going to look out for you and be your mentor, and that's what he was for me. And every year on his birthday, until he passed away, I would always write him and tell him thank you for what he did for me. He was like, I don't know what I did for you, but if you said I did, I appreciate it. Because he did. You didn't have to do that. And I knew a lot of people that didn't do that. We had people in the newsroom that would not have spat on you if you were on fire. But he wasn't like that. He was a caring, considerate man, especially towards me, and he helped me. Like I said, he, along with other people, but him in the beginning, in that first year, when you have a lot of people that decide to get out of it, he helped me keep going and push me to be better. And like I said, that was one of the bigger surprises.
Matt, same question. What were some of the things that surprised you once you started working in media?
Oh, I'm surprised every day. I'm surprised people still one of the first things that surprised me working in media, like John said, is people. It's often like, I kind of compare everything to either a military environment or a sports team that you've got all these people working together. Helicopters aren't supposed to fly. So have you ever seen a helicopter? They've got these rotors, these back rotors. Some of them have have jet engines on them, the pilot, co-pilot switching off to the side of the seat, you pull a lever and it's up, it's magic, right? So to me, every day is like magic to me. And it's these electrons beaming out hundreds of miles, some of them up to space, and you've got these crazy satellites beaming it back down, these tiny dishes on people's homes or a little box, and you have the 5 o'clock evening news, and it's coming on in HD now, which is crazy. So it's, to me, it's still the magic of it. But one of the things that surprised me is when, it was just recently with Baton Rouge floods. I'm not sure how many of you guys followed Baton Rouge floods a couple of years ago. It was seeing my coworkers have 10 feet of water in their homes, and they're still showing up to work. And they're still putting a product on air with those electrons going all the way to space and back, knowing that their home is crashed, knowing that they have to go through about 1.5 years of rebuilding, and they're still coming to work to help the viewers. That was really surprising, and I'm rarely surprised, but that's one of the things that surprised me. And that was kind of later on in my career, so nothing really early on, but just coming to work every day. So I'm kind of surprised every day. I like seeing what's new.
Danny?
Kind of twofold. Number one were the hours that you are required to put in, because usually, especially in radio, you're thinking, I'm going to do an air shift from a 3 or 4 or 5 hour air shift, and boom, I'm done. And it doesn't work that way. So the amount of hours, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, weekends included. But at the same time, I was very surprised to see how quickly those hours went by. Because, as they've alluded to, I mean, it really is magic. There's a really cool, folks in media have some really creative and some really extroverted minds. And the fun things that you get to do throughout the day, or the stories, the creative stories that you hear, really kind of carry you through the day. So even though it's long hours, there's some really good fun hours. And also the thing that kind of surprised me now, one of the first stations I worked for was Case 101 in Austin. We were based just off of 6th Street, and I worked the overnight shift. I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with 6th Street in Austin, but you're there on overnights. You're going to meet some very interesting people if you forget to lock the door. So, through the course of the years that I've been in radio, we've had anywhere from somebody coming off of 6th Street, didn't say a word to me as he walked up the stairs to the control room, looked around and unplugged or unscrewed the top of a lamp and wore it on his head and walked out. And I promise I'm not going to stop him. And even to present day, we had a situation 3 days ago at 7:30 in the morning. I had these ladies coming in to do a morning show interview for a public service event, and they called me on my phone, Elvis is here too. And I assumed that meant that they had some person impersonating Elvis that was going to be a part of their entourage. And I opened the back door for them, that's with a security code. And it is indeed somebody that's about 60 years old, dressed to the hilt in bling, some guy. And I said, is he with y'all? No. So I said, sir, who are you? I'm a local celebrity. And so for 5 to 15 minutes in the lobby while I'm talking to these ladies, he's out there dancing, singing, You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. And so I'm here by myself, nobody's got to the station yet. And so I'm thinking, okay, how do I handle this? Because I don't want to push him away, because he apparently wanted to be on the radio. So I didn't want to put him on the radio. And so what I did is I went ahead and got the ladies out after the interview, walked into their car, came back, he's still there, and I said, well, maybe if I just go ahead and get my phone and video him, maybe he'll think he's making a statement. And for 5 minutes he made statements about how he was Elvis Presley's son, showed me an Elvis Presley driver's license, and talked about many other things. And then he said, oh, and by the way, I want to send a blessing out to all the kids that are texting while driving. That was it. He was gone. So, that's the kind of surprising thing. I knew it'd be an interesting job, but
He left as quickly as he came.
oh yes, Elvis has.
Left the building. All right, guys, we're coming up on our time, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to let the students ask questions. I've got a couple more of my own before we open the floor, though. What advice would you give students still in the university setting to refine their skills, things to practice, things to work on now while they have the opportunity before they start applying for positions in the commercial media? Y'all can take it whatever order you'd like.
I can tell you right now, if you're lazy, do not call me. So if you're lazy out here, you're probably lazy at my station. and I don't do lazy. So I can work on your editing, I can work on your writing, I can work with you shooting a camera and your video and everything else, but I can't teach you to be on time. I can't teach you to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. So I don't do lazy.
I would say, internships are also one of the most important things. Be an intern, getting that newsroom experience, because it's different than college. Being in a newsroom where it's 24/7 a day, you got all these newscasts popping, getting that, that daily grind, that's really important. But also find what makes you curious too now. Like John said, we can teach you how to edit, we can teach you how to shoot, we can teach you how to talk on camera, we can even teach you how to do your hair, makeup, whatever, how to dress. Depends on what company you work for. But work on right now too, kind of the upper level stuff, what makes you curious. Learn your theories, listen to your professors, write your papers.
Checks in the mail.
Find what makes you curious. And you need to kind of learn that now, so when you get to the real world, you've got that background knowledge, you've got the newsroom experience with an internship, and then we can teach you how to do the other stuff.
And playing right along with what he said with the internship, that's all involved in networking, putting yourself in the right place at the right time. Also, adaptability. That's a big thing. I'm not sure exactly how you incorporate that within your college life, but adaptability is a big thing, because you take a look at TV and radio and the way it is today as compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Social media, the way it is today, it's changed monumentally, and it's going to be very, very different in the next 5 years. The next big thing is going to happen in 5 years. We have no idea what it is. So make sure that you have an air of adaptability, that you can wear many different hats, and embrace that adaptability, embrace that change, because if something comes along and you're just like, well, I'm not really, I've already learned how to do this, I've learned Snapchat, I've learned that if there's something new comes along, embrace that as well, because that's going to be something that's going to be a big player in the media as well. And it all comes down to entertainment. I mean, be entertaining, be compelling in short bursts, because people have a very short, attention span. And if you can be entertaining in short bursts and find a niche like that, that'll help you a lot.
Danny, you hit on my very last topic before I open the floor to the students, which is, where do you see the future of your industry in 5 years, in 10 years?
Great question. I mean, we're a terrestrial radio station. In other words, what you hear on the radio, that's terrestrial. But we knew many, many years ago that we could not just be terrestrial and stay alive in the market. We had to go and do website posts, have our own website, have our own stream, be involved in Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat. So we knew that, and we have to incorporate that, even with live events, putting on concerts and so forth. Where do I see this coming in the next 5 to 10 years? Now, I just saw, I think, a study that came out yesterday about smart speakers, your Alexas, that are actually able now to, you can say, Alexa, play, your favorite radio station. We got to get tied into that. The dashboards on vehicles are going to improve and be highly, technological, even more so in the next 5 years. To what point, I don't know. So we have got to, as a radio station, figure out a way that people still keep our buttons there, because it's so easy now, wirelessly through Bluetooth, to play something off your phone, play something off of Spotify. How do we keep relevant in your car, which there's that's pretty much the largest amount of radio listening is being done in a car and sometimes at the workplace. So I'm not sure what that's going to be here in the next 5 years, but whatever it is, we have to embrace it and be at the forefront.
Folks, while we hear the final responses, if you've got questions, you're more than welcome to move up here to the front and get ready to ask them so that everyone can hear them. Let's go ahead and move on to Matt, the future of your industry.
So I wish 5 years ago I would have said this, because that would have been absolutely right. But 5 years, 10 years from now, who knows what these will look like? I mean, we've gotten smaller, we've got to be in contact. I think more personalized broadcast. I think more customizable broadcast. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sit here and speculate where we're going, but it's more of an on-demand, consumable now than ever. The days of appointment TV are 30 years ago, and I think it's kind of audacious to try and even predict the future for a broadcast, but you got to be adaptable.
It's exciting.
You got to change.
It's exciting.
I'm learning Instagram, Snapchat, all that fun stuff, and you got to do it.
I would tell you probably, your age group will probably be, whatever happens 5 years from now, your age group will probably be easily adaptable to it than probably someone my age and older, just because I'm sure you're on your whatever Facebook, social media, whatever things you have, Snapchat and stuff like that on a daily basis. If you were probably running in here, you'd probably be doing that in between class. So, like I said, the 6, 10 o'clock, waiting to watch the newscast at certain times of day are gone. I can tell you right now, my wife, who I love dearly, and my profession provides for us, she doesn't watch newscasts. She gets everything from the website and or social media. And if she sees a particular story she wants, she'll watch that story, and that'll be that. She'll watch the weather, she'll get a weather, and that'll be that. She don't care that LSUS won a basketball game, or Saints won, or lost, or down.
Thank goodness, because my wife doesn't listen to my radio station either.
She has people she likes, but she doesn't watch. I mean, that's been like that since we've been married. So it's just how it is, and I don't try to deny it. When people ask who your wife think, like she didn't watch.
All right, let's open the floor to our students then. Jerry, question?
My question's more specifically for Danny, for the radio kind of thing about going into it. What is like the one thing that if you had to pick out of all of your radio duties that makes you get up in the morning and just go into work?
Definitely the morning show. I mean, I enjoy all the aspects for the most part after the morning show, as far as scheduling music and editing logs and dealing with corporate. But I mean, in the mornings you have that interaction. I mean, granted, as opposed to an auditorium like this, in the morning show I have the microphone, but you don't see who you're talking to. But you do get that interaction from phone calls or from people that come onto our Facebook page or our website. And it's really neat when they send you like a little small Facebook video of, I have this really silly thing on Friday morning, it's called the Maryland Morning Sing-Along Wake-Up Song, which is a silly song, and I sing along with it, and I'm terrible at it. But it, for some reason, captivates the 8, 9, and 7-year-olds and under. And they'll send me videos of them sitting in the back seat in their car seat singing along with it. And to know that you touch somebody like that, it's really cool.
Thank you.
Sure.
Christian?
This is also for the radio as well. So I know one day that I want to be able to have my own radio station somewhere in Texas for my particular taste in music. What type of connections would I need to make like right now, and if I want to actually make that dream a reality?
And this is something I think we all can hit on because it kind of transcends the different types of medium that we're in. What classification are you at now?
Right now I'm a junior.
You're a junior. Have you gotten your foot in the door any place or gotten network with anybody in communications outside of the college yet or not?
I have not.
Okay. That would be one of the first things I would say. I mean, there are, many of the stations, TV stations in this area are connected. We're a smaller market, but we're owned by corporations that, are pretty large. And so when you get in with some of these smaller stations, you're actually tapping into a larger network. So maybe if you get in, say, just, for instance, with a station like ours or with some of the stations that we have, we are connected with Tyler, and Wichita Falls, and Shreveport. And we have stations in Albany, New York. So my first thing would be to figure out a way to network. Obviously, get your skills here. Are you planning on being on the radio station or owning the station, you said?
Yeah, I want to own my own.
Would you also be on the air too or not?
I would also be on the air.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would the first thing to do is just, it's building blocks. It really is. You really got to start. And as they mentioned, start small and get ready. What's the Princess Bride line? Get used to disappointment. But after that, things will go better. You want to add on to that or not?
I would say, obviously I'm not in radio, but it kind of still applies on what we're saying. Learn, when you get in that door, learn everything you can. Know how it works. Know what every knob, dial, button, whatever it is. Make yourself invaluable and make them hire you. Make them hire you.
Find a niche.
One of the things for me personally, I want to be, one of my professional goals is to be a general manager here in the next 10 years. That's the person that actually runs the television station from top to bottom. And one of the things that, excuse me, I've been doing really in the last 3 years as a news director, I'm learning not just the newsroom aspect, but you're starting to pick other department heads' brains and stuff, what they have and what they don't have, and really getting out in the community when you start meeting. Because one of the roles as general manager, you are that community point person, more or less. We don't do it, but I know some station groups, they do editorials, but you're that person, so it's trying to learn who's who, this chamber person, this community person, and trying to get to know them, so when an opportunity does come, you have an understanding of how I'm going to run a television station from top to bottom, not just a newsroom. Because running a newsroom will be different than running promotion, will be different than running sales, will be different than running engineering. So, but a good general manager needs to be able to run all of those, but at the very least hire the right department heads to run them all. So she or he don't have to be micromanaging and all that stuff. So good luck to you.
Got a question?
Yeah. I wanted to open up my question to any or all of the panelists. I feel like our generation definitely has a negative opinion on the FCC. I know y'all touched on it a little bit earlier. But I wanted to know what y'all's opinion on the FCC is, and is there anything the FCC has kept y'all from producing that you felt was valuable information to the public?
I can't think of anything that kept us from doing.
You know, I don't know if you kind of alluded to net neutrality and some of the issues like they're doing now. But I haven't seen them, you know, as a granular level to a local TV station in the Shreveport area market.
Yeah.
You know, the FCC's arm hasn't quite reached that far, I don't believe. You know, some of the stuff that they have set rules on have, you know, basic standards and guidelines that we wouldn't do anyways. Just kind of upholding the values that we have. So, not particularly, but is there something that you've seen that's made?
Well, just, I mean, in the past, not even our generation, but other people have had like very negative opinions on the FCC and their censorship of certain things.
I've never been censored.
Yeah. I mean, we censor our I mean, we don't show, you're not going to show vulgarity, you're not going to show,
Of course.
certain things. So you have your own standards. We have making sure, even if I'm in here shooting video, and I'm just shooting this video and it looks fine, and I'm not picking on somebody, but somebody in the back can have the middle finger up. That, I may not see that, but you have these, you're supposed to have these checks and balances in the station, so you check that video, and I missed it when I was shooting it, but now we're back in the station, 2 more people have missed it, and we put that on the air. And we got this person in the back flashing a bird, and all you need is one person to make a complaint. Now we're sitting at a $5,000 fine. So, but they haven't done anything to us to, you know, they haven't called and said, hey, John Walton, don't do this. So they won't call me anyway. They'll call corporate, and corporate will be the person to relay that message. So
Really, once again, kind of repeating what they said, nothing really with the FCC. I'm more scared of YouTube Gestapo. And the folks that, you know, since we're doing posts, you know, we are very, very micromanaged as far as what pictures we can post. Because the last thing we want to do is get sued for using a picture that we're not supposed to be using. And for YouTube videos, we cannot use even the smallest amount of background music in there that's copyrighted. And they will, you know, they've got lawyers and bots that will look for this. And so I'm more scared of that than anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, this is more for the news gentleman over here. So, when a lot of us are making our packages for news stories, we kind of find it hard to find things interesting going on in the Nacogdoches community. So, what would be your... I feel like everyone agrees.
Yeah.
So, what would be the number one thing to, you know, either find interesting news or find, I guess, exciting or something to connect with your viewers?
I'll take a stab at it. It's my first time in Nacogdoches, so I don't know. So I love the place so far. I haven't been here for 4 years. My advice to you would be, have you looked for folks that are making a difference? Have you thought outside your own comfort zone and trying to experience and get that empathy type interview with somebody that you may not sit next to at lunch? And try and do that.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I know, I'm trying to think, when I was in school, most of our stories that we did were on campus. We didn't go off campus a lot, but now when I see resume reels come through, I see a lot of people who actually go off campus and do stories. A lot of times it might be a story they interned at, so they may piggyback that. And like Matt said, I'm driving on campus, I'm like, man, this is a pretty sweet building. So, we didn't have it on Southern's campus, I can tell you that. But going out and finding stories that are just, it's really the individual in the story, not so much the story itself. And I would tell you too that you got to cover the story. You have to cover the story that's assigned to you. But how are you writing that story? How are you crafting the story? How are you editing it together to maybe make a difference? Not yet. You got to cover the announcement of the new whatever new center that's opening on campus. But how are you going to try to write that to make it different than the story that everybody else is going to do, or edit it differently, or whatever the people are going to use in that story and stuff like that. So. But yeah, I've never been to Nacogdoches, and but it's like driving through, I'm like, all right. I started to come here and play football out of high school, but I didn't realize how far it was. My mom told me you're not leaving Louisiana. Now with that, so.
Any input, thoughts?
I mean, just try to look for alternate angles. The story's not necessarily always going to be straightforward. Sometimes it will be. But try to be creative, try to observe what's going on. For instance, you may not be into country music or red dirt music, but when you have a gathering of 5,500 people at the Expo Center and they're serving alcohol, there's going to be some interesting things that happen. And, I heard some of those stories, and surely, maybe there would be some sort of angle, some of the more odd things that happen, according to the Nacogdoches Sheriff's Department at the, Cody Johnson and Friends Throwdown. Of course, you had to work on that. But, just find different angles on something like that. And of course, as they mentioned, when something brand new was opening, when Lowe's came to town, there's Lowe's. Things like that.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes. I think one more question if someone has it. Anyone? Come on up, very quickly. Probably not going to get through that way.
So all of y'all are journalists or have been at some point. One of the biggest things that I've seen in journalism is that you have to make the person that you're interviewing feel comfortable. So do y'all have any tips or tricks to do that? Because I know in my experience, it's worked great in some places, and then other times it's just been really difficult.
Sometimes you just have to have a conversation with that person beforehand. I mean, no one wants microphones stuck in their face. Just nobody wants that. I mean, I don't care what the story is. Obviously, a tragedy is even worse, even if you're covering the Saints win the Super Bowl. But having a conversation with them, what we're going to talk about, trying to get them, because most people are nervous. They'll talk to you right now. Fine, you put that camera on. I didn't even want to be on camera. Call me my television station, lady. So you just got to try to. Sometimes you call them like, look, this is going to be on television. So, okay, I just want to let you know. So, but you just got to try to make them feel comfortable and at ease, and give them your business card when you've done it before, so they know you're not just some random person and they're not some random person to you. But who knows, you may get some stories out of it later on. Now they have their information, they'll call you like, hey, just letting you know that I saw a bunch of police here, or hey, that we're about to do this community thing, I want to see if you guys be interested in it. So that's how you build your contacts.
Kind of two things. One of the most important things that I tell all my young journalists and even producers too that are inside is to listen and then really hear their story. So do you want to be on TV or do you print?
Much more television and
That's more
radio.
television. So one of the greatest things you can do is when you roll up on a horrible story like a fire destroys a house, and you've got these people looking at nothing but rubble, is putting down the camera and just showing some compassion to them, and then letting them, explaining to them, listening to their stories, and explaining to them how you can help them by telling their story and having that done. That's what would be my advice.
Definitely what they're talking about, making the interviewee feel comfortable, and also making sure that you are working on your own interview skills, such as slow paced, be calm. You know, the faster you talk, the more excited you get. That's going to make them that much more uncomfortable. So make sure that you're slow paced and that you're asking pretty broad questions, open-ended questions. Let them tell their story. You don't want to micromanage their interview, what the story they're trying to give you.
Wonderful. One more round of applause for our panel. Coming in, spending our time with us. Dr. John Allen Hendricks would like to say a couple of words to all, so I'm going to give the mic over to him.
Thank you, John, Matt, and Danny. Just a couple of housekeeping notes here before we break and go to lunch. I know that 35 of you paid for lunch today to get to mix and mingle with our special guest today. Those who are on the panel after lunch, they are making their way up here at this time as well. I'm asking you, if you have paid for the lunch, to enter through the doors in the back of the room where Dr. Thompson is. She has your name on a list, and so we'll mark you off as you go in. I'm asking the special guests today to maybe not sit together, but spread out so that you can be at a table with students because they want to pick your brains even more. So don't be shy. Today's not a day to be shy. These folks have driven a long way, and they have a lot of experience that they can share with you. And so eat lunch with them and ask them anything you want to ask them. But do enjoy the lunch. For those of you, though, this is important. For those of you who did not pay for lunch, we still have 2 more sessions this afternoon. The advertising public relations session is immediately after lunch, and then we have a video production session after that. So we're only halfway through, and good stuff is scheduled. So we're going to take a break at this time, go grab a quick bite to eat, and then join us back here at 1 o'clock. Thanks so much.